Why didn't the Voyager probes visit Pluto? It's a question I get asked all the time, and it's easy to see why. Because before exploring interstellar space, the Voyager probes explored the outer solar system. They became the first spacecraft to visit Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus and Neptune in an extraordinary journey that has never been repeated. But neither Voyager 1 nor Voyager 2 ever visited Pluto, which at the time was still considered the 9th planet and had never been seen up close. What's more, Voyager 1 actually had the opportunity to go there, to become the first spacecraft to fly past the icy world. So why didn't it? It's a fascinating question, and the answer comes down to a single decision, one that arguably changed the course of planetary exploration forever. To understand why Voyager never visited Pluto, we first need to understand how it travelled through the solar system. Unlike a car driving from one town to the next, Voyager wasn't constantly firing its engines towards each new planet. Instead, NASA planned a route that would allow the spacecraft to steal a tiny amount of energy from the planets themselves. An ingenious method called a gravity assist. It was an elegant piece of celestial mechanics. When Voyager swept past a planet, its gravity bent the spacecraft's path and flung it onwards at incredible speed. Each close flyby became a cosmic slingshot, sending both the Voyager probes racing towards the next destination without burning vast amounts of fuel. That was the secret behind the mission, and it was made possible by an extraordinary coincidence. Roughly once every 176 years, the giant planets align in such a way that a single spacecraft can travel from one to the next using gravity alone. Both Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 launched from Earth towards Jupiter in 1977. Jupiter's gravity redirected both of them towards Saturn, but that's where the two spacecraft began to tell very different stories. Voyager 2 had been placed on a trajectory that would continue the grand tour, carrying it onwards to Uranus and eventually Neptune, becoming the only spacecraft in history to visit all four of the giant planets. Which meant that if humanity was ever going to send one of the Voyager probes to Pluto, it could only be Voyager 1. But Voyager 1's journey beyond Saturn had not yet been decided. It had two possible futures. One would send it towards Pluto, the most distant known world in the solar system at the time. The other would take it closer than ever before to Titan, Saturn's mysterious, shrouded moon. Saturn wasn't just another gravity assist, it was a crossroads for Voyager 1. In November 1980, Pluto lay roughly in the same direction as Voyager 1 was already travelling, and after its encounter with Saturn, there was a possible trajectory that could have carried the spacecraft straight past Pluto. For just a moment, let's rewrite history. Let's imagine that instead of leaving the solar system when it did, Voyager 1 used Saturn's immense gravity to bend its path towards Pluto. Year after year, it would have travelled deeper into the outer solar system, racing across billions of kilometres of empty space, until in 1986, Pluto, which had only ever been seen as a tiny point of light, came into focus. Decades before New Horizons would ever launch, Voyager 1 would have snapped those first images of the icy planet, revealing its famous heart-shaped feature, its water-ice mountains, and even its cryovolcanoes perhaps. Clyde Tombaugh, the man who discovered Pluto in 1930, would have lived to see humanity's first close-up images of the world he found. It feels like a perfect ending to one of the greatest space missions ever flown, but history took a different path. So, looking back today, it's easy to say NASA should have chosen Pluto. After all, we've all seen the incredible images New Horizons eventually sent back from Pluto, but that's the advantage of hindsight. And it's not the decision NASA had to make. They had to make their choice in the 1980s, and back then Titan was the greatest mystery in the outer solar system. No telescope on Earth could see through its clouds. Was it covered in a global ocean, vast continents, or perhaps even life? It wasn't just another moon, it was another world that was in many ways like an early Earth. Because of Voyager 1's trajectory and the position of each world, it couldn't visit both. Reaching Pluto required one path, flying close enough to Titan to study its atmosphere, that required another. And once that path had been decided, it could not be undone. NASA chose Titan. On the 12th of November 1980, Voyager 1 swept just 4,000 kilometers above the moon's surface, passing through its orange atmosphere, before Saturn's gravity flung the spacecraft upwards, out of the plane of the solar system and into the darkness beyond. Pluto was gone. The decision could never be reversed. But almost immediately, it became clear why NASA had made this decision. Voyager confirmed that Titan's atmosphere was unlike anything ever discovered beyond Earth. It was thick, rich in nitrogen just like Earth's atmosphere, but filled with methane and coated in a dense orange haze that completely hid the surface below. Sure, scientists still couldn't see what was beneath the clouds, but that only made Titan even more fascinating. Rather than solving the mystery, Voyager had created an even bigger one. Suddenly, Titan wasn't simply another moon orbiting Saturn, it had become one of the most important destinations in the entire solar system. The scientific community knew they had to go back, and 17 years later, NASA, together with the European Space Agency and the Italian Space Agency, launched the Cassini-Huygens mission. For more than 13 years, Cassini transformed our understanding of Saturn and its moons. And on the 14th of January 2005, the Huygens probe separated from Cassini and descended through Titan's atmosphere. For the first time in history, humanity landed on the surface of a world in the outer solar system. River channels carved by flowing liquids, rounded water ice rocks, orange skies, weather driven not by water but by liquid methane. Everything Huygens discovered all began with one decision made nearly 25 years earlier, the decision to choose Titan over Pluto. So, was it the right choice? Because while Titan was revealing its secrets, Pluto slipped quietly back into the darkness. For another 25 years, Pluto remained unexplored, but not forgotten. In the years that followed, astronomers continued studying the icy world from Earth. In fact, during the 1990s, another remarkable discovery changed everything. Beyond Neptune lay an entire population of frozen worlds, the Kuiper Belt. Suddenly, Pluto wasn't just the lonely ninth planet. It became the gateway to an entirely new region of the solar system. By the early 2000s, space exploration had also changed dramatically. Cameras were sharper, computers were faster, scientific instruments were far more capable, and in 2006, NASA launched New Horizons. And unlike Voyager, New Horizons wasn't trying to explore several planets in a single mission. Everything about the spacecraft had been designed for one destination in mind. After travelling more than 9 years, it finally arrived at Pluto in July 2015. What it found surprised almost everyone. That tiny point of light that astronomers had debated for decades was suddenly transformed into a real world. One that was far more diverse, complex, and beautiful than anyone had imagined. So, did NASA make the right decision back in 1980? I think the answer is yes. Had Voyager visited Pluto, humanity would have almost certainly seen the dwarf planet decades earlier. But we would have done so with technology designed in the early 1970s, on a spacecraft whose mission was never built beyond Pluto. Instead, Titan inspired the Cassini-Huygens mission. Pluto inspired New Horizons. Rather than one spacecraft trying to do everything, each world received the dedicated mission it deserved. Looking back, Voyager didn't rob us of Pluto, it simply allowed Pluto to have its own story. And because of that single decision made at Saturn, humanity didn't just discover one extraordinary world, we discovered two. This channel is researched, written and narrated by me, a real human who actually checks sources and cares about the stories behind each video. That's why I created the V101 Alliance, a membership offer that for less than the price of a coffee each month allows people who values this kind of content the chance to support it directly, and in return get meaningful perks. So if you'd like to join this mission and become a part of the V101 Alliance, become a member today for just $2 by clicking the join button that's located next to the subscribe button. I would love to welcome you, and hopefully I'll be seeing your name in one of my future videos very soon.